All right, so we have our second topic here for IELTS Speaking Part 1 in our new series. We obviously have more questions from the previous series, and we keep on uploading these as examples for your practicing. Today we're going to talk about waiting. As you see here, the handsome guy is waiting for something. So we're going to generally talk about it. So I'm going to ask the questions and give possible answers that might help you to get an idea of how you're supposed to speak in the examination. What's more important is your fluency, understanding the question and talking about it, organizing your ideas, be as natural as much as possible. Don't worry too much, and to avoid worrying, you actually need to practice. Without practicing, that worrying part will always be there. That being said, let's move forward and start with the first question. Are you a patient person? I would say it depends on what I'm doing, right? I usually love to take action and get quick results in day-to-day activities, but I also have long-term plans and long-term goals. And some goals might take up to 15 to 20 years to achieve. So I go step by step. I sometimes fail, I sometimes give up in the middle of it, but every time I remember what my purpose was and what my goal was, I always stand up and go on doing it. So it doesn't really matter. So I could say in general, I'm a patient person, especially with the long-term goals. Question number two, what do you usually do while waiting? It depends on where I am. Usually I love scrolling if the waiting is going to take probably 5 to 10 minutes. But if I'm sure the person I'm waiting for is probably half an hour away from where I am, I could be reading a book or trying to read some articles or just chatting with an AI bot, asking some specific questions, trying to discuss, exchanging ideas, etc. Or if there is someone around me, I'll try to make a conversation with them, the old school style. Question number three, is waiting common in your country? Unfortunately, waiting is very, very common. It has become as if some part of like the culture in our country, but also some sort of expectation because everyone comes late. So even the person who thinks they're supposed to be somewhere in a certain time, they should also calculate that or expect that. So if you're going to meet somebody at 7 p.m., expect them to be there at 7:30 or 8 p.m. actually. They have a lot of excuses ready there. There was traffic and all the stuff, but usually I don't want to get used to this kind of people environment. If I had to wait somebody for 2 or 3 times and that's it. The first time I'll say like maybe it's an emergency. Second time I think like this is how they are. The third time they do this, this is a habit they were never gonna change, even though I was complaining about it or saying something about it. So I usually prefer to set less serious meetings with this kind of people. Do you think people today are less patient than before? Absolutely. I think people today are less patient. I don't know if this is scientifically proven, but a lot of people believe that we are used to instant gratification, that we don't like to wait and get something difficult. For instance, if I were to uh, train people and not entertaining at the same time or adding a lot of interesting things, people would easily get bored. While in the past people would probably be okay with actually listening to boring stuff for a very long time and trying to get the information and caring about the content, not how it's being presented. So nowadays people are much into entertainment, interesting things, engaging things, and thanks to algorithm, it's training our brain to ask for this more and more. If I were to, for example, create a video like this one, putting my face and doing a lot of funny stuff, a lot of people will be hooked and watch for a long time. But if you make a video like this one, which is plain, just talking about information, focusing on the quality of the information you're giving, then only a few people would be able to go as far as half the video. So this is how the new generation is, or the new world is. So people are actually less patient. What kind of situations make you impatient? What kind of situations make you impatient? I think the waiting of a person, especially if they do this too often, that it has become part of their habit, this makes me very impatient. If I'm supposed to do something, let's say I have schedule. Usually my schedule are up to time. For example, if it's 11 after 12, it's 11 after 12. If I have to wait for somebody for 10 minutes, then I won't prolong this meeting up to 12:10. It will be 12 o'clock when it's over. So I'm going to count the waiting part as part of the meeting. Or sometimes you go to a place expecting services, and unfortunately, this service is very slow, or people are not really interested into helping you, or they'll tell you just wait there, and they're actually not doing anything important. And then you are supposed to be somewhere else in a certain time. Now you miss the window of doing the other thing next to your program. I usually, I'm used to being in different countries, especially the developed ones. I'm used to people caring very much about time. So when they are serving you, it's usually not more than 15 minutes. So you could calculate the time that you're going to spend in the bank and when you're going to leave and the program that will follow. But in some countries, the place where I'm becoming really, really impatient, especially in the developing countries, you might enter the bank and spend 2 hours waiting and you're never going to be served. They're just going to tell you we cannot solve it here. You have to go to another place and you have already waited for 2 hours. So they're not organized, not systematic, and this makes me very angry and impatient. Well, as you have seen, these examples are not the exactly thing that you're going to say. I'm not saying that you cannot say them. You can say the exactly things that I've said here if you are capable or comfortable of doing so. But I don't want people to memorize answers and freak out in the examination. I want you to practice by yourself, giving the natural answers and try to be creative along the road. And this creativity, again, as I always say, comes out of practicing. If you don't practice, like really, really practicing as if you were in the examination, asking yourself the question, trying to answer, trying to listen to your own answer, trying to improve your phrases, your vocabularies, and the way you construct sentences, then you are not going to do something different in the examination. Don't expect it to perform well inside the examination. The good performance occurs again and again outside the examination. If you can perform well again and again outside the examination, the chance of you panicking and losing control is less and less inside the examination. But if you practice less before examination and expect to perform better during examination, then you are gambling. And in most cases, you are not winning this kind of gamble. All right, then I'm going to leave a link below if you're interested in private lessons or interested in getting free materials for studying. Just click the link and get in touch with me. I'll be ready to help you. So I'm wishing you all the best in the preparation. This journey is probably not easy for you, and you are studying every day, probably for months or for days, and you're expecting to have a great performance. So this performance doesn't come just because you want it too much, but it comes when you actually prepare a lot. So more preparation and less wishful thinking. Until next time, take care of yourself.